and welcome to another edition of the Tag1 Team Talks, the vlog and podcast of Tag1 Consulting. I'm Michael Myers, the Managing Director, and today we're celebrating and looking back at 20 years of Drupal. We're really proud of Tag1 to have been a part of Drupal's history and have many team members that have contributed along the way. I'm joined today by Narayan Newton, one of our partners and our CTO, who I've known for a very long time and who's played a major role over the years within Drupal. Narayan, why don't you give folks just a quick background, some of the things that you're working on in the Drupal community?
I am the head of infrastructure for Drupal.org. So a lot of what I do is on the back end of Drupal.org and its associated services. So like, for example, 3 hours after this, we have a downtime where we're switching the media backend for Drupal static file storage. So that's the sort of thing I usually do in the community, just keeping the infrastructure around Drupal.org moving forward.
So you're the one to blame for everything.
Yep. Historically, that's been absolutely true.
Do you remember, looking back, how you first learned about Drupal, why you decided to use it?
So how I first learned about Drupal, I guess, would be far before my involvement. I used to write and be an editor for an online magazine, like community site. And we migrated to Drupal in like 2004, probably. And I didn't make that decision, but I was running the infrastructure for the magazine as well. So that was my first introduction to Drupal, was running it in a semi-large scale to support that, having no idea how it worked. I have to say, I don't think I was a huge fan, but it worked out.
Awesome. Do you remember what your first contribution was to the Drupal community?
It depends on what you mean by contribution. Like my intro to the community well after that magazine was I worked at the Oregon State Open Source Lab, and Drupal was one of my first clients there. So I think my first contribution to the community was someone asking for a VM to try to port Drupal.org to Drupal 5. I'm pretty sure that was my first contribution to the community, is setting up a VM for that. I was looking back through my email, and my email ended before the emails about Drupal.org ended, and ended sometime back in 2006. So it's been a while.
You've been involved in so many projects, and I love talking to you because when a lot of people think about Drupal, they think about the code contributions and other aspects of the community, and you forget about all of this insane tooling that powers the development, that, the automated QA and testing system, the GitLab, and, Drupal.org and all the different websites. We wouldn't be able to function without the role that you play and the things that you do. Is there something that you're most proud of?
Sometimes we can't function with my role. What I'm most proud of? Probably one of the two Git migrations, I would imagine. Either the first one to Git from CVS, or the migration to GitLab from Git. The first one because we were one of the first major projects to do it, and it was kind of rife with issue. But we got it done, but kind of barely. And then the GitLab migration, because we had everything pretty well understood by that point, and it went really well. And I was very proud of the team for like how everything was done and tested and rolled out. And it just went really cleanly, which I appreciated. And they were both major changes. Like the GitLab migration allowed for merge requests that we just turned on recently, and will allow for much more. So it was a big improvement.
Awesome. Being on Git was a huge step forward for Drupal. I know there's a lot of debate that went into it, back in the CVS days, which way to go. And now looking back, it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
So
I remember the BCR screaming matches.
if you could do something over again, is there something that you would change? Oh man, I wish we hadn't done that, or I would have done it differently.
I mean, the answer is obviously yes, but it's a hard question to answer because I was looking back through my email. And so I've been in this industry for like 20 years or a little bit less than that, about around as long as Drupal has been around, it seems. I've been involved in Drupal for 15 of those 20. So like the stuff I worked on a long time ago, obviously there were things I would do differently because like my career and my knowledge in this area and experience has literally developed like as I was in this position. So yes, there are innumerable things I would do differently, but I don't know how I would answer that question because that's basically saying if I were to roll back to 2006 as I am now, there's no way Drupal could afford me. So but things would be much better.
I thought you were going to say the GitLab migration. So
I do not regret the GitLab migration.
All right, my favorite question, which is, what is your favorite and the least favorite feature or aspect of Drupal?
I mean, I'm tempted due to my position and how I interact with Drupal, whereas I'm not really a developer as such or at all. And I mainly deal with the repercussions of Drupal's actions. I'm tempted to answer that my favorite thing about Drupal is the flexibility and my least favorite thing about Drupal is the flexibility, but that seems like a bit of a cop-out. I think as weird an answer as this is, my favorite thing about Drupal is views because I like in my senior year at Oregon State University was rolling out Drupal to a bunch of its sub-departments. And I was, for some reason, part of the group that was doing some training on that and watching people with absolutely no technical ability or not no technical ability, no technical background, be able to build like fairly complicated listings was really cool. And seeing like that they were excited about that and the amount of power that Views exposes to someone who's not necessarily a developer is amazing. You could also say that that could be a negative, but I think it's amazing.
The interface for Views has been a little challenging, but yeah. As a feature, it's without a doubt one of the transformative things that Drupal has offered.
My least favorite thing right now is how much it depends on a shared file system.
Okay. All right. From an infrastructure standpoint, I mean, it could be for anything, but I'm curious because you have a really unique perspective. What were the major advancements over the last 20 years, like key things that stand out to you that really helped move forward Drupal and facilitates its adoption? So primary and secondary support, things of that nature. Are there like key advancements or features that, in your mind, facilitated the adoption?
So we could roll way back, and the whole fight that was won on the InnoDB side for defaulting to InnoDB in Drupal, that was a very contentious topic, and it was put forward that it was like somewhat elitist as well, which is interesting. But I think the fact that we really embraced InnoDB early on was helpful because it meant that things out of the box just scaled up much cleaner. And when that happened, I was already in consulting when that happened, and the amount of issues that were just convert your tables really decreased overnight almost. So I think that was very helpful. Honestly, like Views was clearly helpful and has been copied since. Primary, secondary database server support, I am hesitant to say was very helpful because it's just so difficult to make it work right. And I think people have had more problems than successes with it at this point. Yeah, I'm not sure that's a very good answer, but that's probably my answer.
I mean, it's funny you say elitist. Like, I guess I think about a lot of it enterprise adoption and sort of the sophistication that was added from a, infrastructure and database standpoint over time led to companies adopting it. There's tons of people, individual, small organizations that use it that may not need things like InnoDB and.
But you understand people's frustration, right? Like InnoDB is much better in basically every way, but it's not faster when you have a website that gets like 10 users. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It is faster now. Back then, with like if you're on shared hosting and with restrictions around that, it wasn't. So it definitely felt like Drupal was targeting not you if you were in that position. On the other hand, that's accurate.
All right. If you had a magic wand and you could wave it to add any feature to Drupal or any capability, what would it be?
I think I'd go back to my comment on shared file storage and say if I had a magic wand that could make that go away and be replaced by some sort of pluggable object store so that Drupal was a much better fit for Kubernetes and serverless deployments where you didn't have a shared file store as a provisioner. And Drupal was better for like serverless deployments. I think that would probably be what I do. And I know stuff like that exists, but better by default.
Sort of out of the box or much easier to implement. Yeah. I think that, you can make Drupal do anything. You can make anything do anything. It comes down to, how easy and cost effective can you do that. So what has been the best part for you about being a member of the Drupal community?
Probably the community as a whole. Like it's an interesting experience where I'm not really super connected at the developer level. And I used to be more so than I am now. And now I'm really not connected at the developer level. So like going to DrupalCons back when we used to do that, very much was going for like the whole track and being able to talk to people. And these are people I've known for a really long time. So I think the community has just been very, very welcoming, and it's very nice to be a part of.
All right. Last question. I'm sure, today there are a lot of people that you would love to thank, but if you look back at when you first got started in your early years, are there individuals that stand out that you want to just say, hey, thanks for helping me, get up and running with Drupal, for supporting me when I get started?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's one that rises above everyone else, which is Gerhard Kilsreiter. He was the head of infrastructure when I came on, and he was my client at the OSL. And I worked under him on the infrastructure team for years and years and years and years and years. If there was someone to thank for my involvement in Drupal infrastructure, it would be basically solo him, without a doubt.
Gerhard's an amazing guy.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And thanks to all our listeners and watchers for joining us for another Tag1 Team Talk. We'll see you soon.